Welcome to A Dose of Feel Good. I'm your host, Whitney Bischoff, and today we are talking about one day, one moment at a time. You can see full show notes at doseoffeelgood.my.canva.site. Now let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back, everyone. You made it another week as we approach the end of the year. So if you haven't told yourself lately how proud you are of yourself for making it through 2025, now is your chance. I've been talking with some of my friends. I'm a big person that likes reflecting on the last year, everything that it's taught us, X, Y, Z. And I don't know if every year at the end of the year I'm like, wow, that year really has tested me. And but especially this year, I think that's kind of the common theme that like 2025 was really built to test our patience, to help us grow, all of the fun things. So you made it through one more week, and we are approaching the end of the year, which is full of new opportunities, new possibilities, and we will definitely dive more into our end of year wrap up next week. But this week, I really want to focus on the topic of one day, one moment at a time, which is funny because, I think as we approach the end of a year, a lot of the time we are really reflective of maybe things from our past, even just that past year, or we start all this forward thinking of how's it going to look like in the next year and XYZ. And really taking a step back from that and focusing on this current moment in time, or the beauty of just those small moments that I think we often take for granted. And as we kind of move into this time of reflection over the last year, I think, at least for me, I set a lot of goals for myself and some lofty goals. And I think at the beginning of the year, I'm sure y'all can feel this way too, but we have a lot of energy and momentum and drive to reach all of these goals that we set for ourselves. I was just I had written all of them down. I usually do that at the end of a year of like, ooh, these are all the things I want to accomplish. And I had like 13 goals, which just seems totally unreasonable now that I'm thinking of it. I must have had a lot of energy going into 2025. I reached 5 of them. And at first I was like, wow, I really did not nail what I was trying to do last year. But then in hindsight, I was like, but I stuck to 5 of them. And that's definitely a win. But I think sometimes we like have so much forward momentum that we don't stick to the goals that we set for ourselves. And again, I think it's, at least for me, when I'm reflecting of like, why didn't I do X, Y, Z? A lot of it is just like this overwhelm, right? The day-to-day of like, it's exhausting. It's exhausting to be a human. So we're going to start with acknowledging that. But I think, again, I'm definitely someone, I have big feelings, big thoughts, often kept to myself. But I think that puts me in a space sometimes where I'm stuck in the past and wanting to like learn and know all of the reasons why XYZ happened. And the reality is that I don't necessarily need to have all of those answers, right? It's being maybe thankful that those moments have happened, but not getting stuck there, right? Especially when we're overwhelmed, it's like, oh, it's because this had happened to me or whatever that looks like. But I also am definitely a visionary when I'm talking with folks, whether it's for my personal life, professional life. I have big thoughts and big ideas, and I want to run towards the biggest thing. I don't do small changes. I kind of burn everything down and then move forward, right? And to build these big, brand new things. But I think, at least for me, then I start to get stuck on the next best thing, right? Rather than taking a step back and appreciating where we are here and now. I know, at least for myself, I take for granted like these still small moments that to just be, right? To be in the presence of whether it's people or the beauty. I am kind of just even in those moments thinking of what's the next thing. And I think in this current season, I saw a quote that was kind of along these lines, but it was basically like, we will never be in these moments with these people again, right? And even if, like, let's say we watch this beautiful sunset, right? And even if it's with the same people, the people that we're kind of always with, I think even in that moment, the day, the weather, how you're feeling, right? Whether that's mentally, physically, we're getting older. Imagine that. But the next time that happens, we are going to be totally different people in those moments. And so really taking a step back and not taking for granted the power of those moments and the beauty that it brings, because we evolve, life evolves. And if we are stuck in the past or the future, we're not really appreciating the presence and everything either that we can get from that stillness and that beauty, and just taking a step back from all of the chaos that I think, at least for me, is like swirling in my head sometimes, but really just being present in those moments. I found myself, I love, which is so funny because I just said burning things down as part of a visionary, but I love like the beauty of like a really pretty fire pit or fireplace, and I could just sit and watch fire dance for forever. But I know for me, like that's what the stillness comes, that there's so much that has to happen in just the right way for even a fire to ignite. And so I think there's just so much beauty in that. I'm also somebody, I really love the water. And if I am just like floating in like a nice warm temperature, and just kind of appreciate those moments, those are things for me that like I can really feel that stillness and that awe of those moments where I really am present just as I am. And I think, at least for me, again, I'm somebody, I always have thoughts running through my head. I always have like music just playing in the back of my mind. And I'm like, is everyone like this? So anyways, so like that stillness can be really hard sometimes to actually find. But I found myself when I'm in those moments of just like thought after thought after thought, grounding myself. So taking those deep breaths. I am somebody like, how do my muscles feel? Like, is there tension in different areas? Can I stretch those out? And then I kind of have this thought process of just being proud of each day that we make it through. Sometimes the days are hard, right? And so at the end of the day, like I am proud of myself for making it to this point. But then I think also, because even trying to get through the day sometimes can be really hard, it's also being proud and celebrating each moment that we conquer, right? I think, if somebody's in a really bad place, it's just even being thankful for the moments where like, I've gotten myself out of bed, I've washed my face, brushed my teeth, and I've taken a shower, right? Anyways, it's just each of those moments, especially on the really hard days, and being just thankful for that stillness and those moments and conquering each of those things. A couple of ways to illustrate what this looks like in practice. Obviously, I've said many a time, I work in higher education, and it is winter graduation season, and I love graduations. My previous role, I got to plan and coordinate all of graduation, and it's just such a fun time. But I found myself also during that time, because if you work in higher education or any sort of educational environment, we build these really great relationships with our students, and we see them overcome so many things and learn so much and grow so much during their time that they are with us, and we get to support and cheer them on along the way. And really, graduation point is like that, you've made it, last hurrah, right? And then they go out into the world. And I found myself a handful of times of like really at a graduation ceremony thinking like I might never see or be around these people ever again. But I got to watch their entire lives transform. And there's just so much thoughts and feelings that go along with that. This pride, right? That what I'm doing actually matters. But also there's like this bittersweetness that like these folks are going to go out into the world and do absolutely fabulous things. And I was just a part of that puzzle, right? And so that moment where we're celebrating you've made it this far can be such a powerful moment. And so that's where I really started to practice this, that like being thankful for those moments, those really powerful moments. I think another way to look at this, at least for me, I don't go on vacation very often. Again, I am a worker bee and I love doing all of the things. And so oftentimes, I'm really anticipating when's that next vacation point, right? That's what I'm working towards as like a break or whatever that looks like. But then I get to that moment and I'm thinking of all of the things that I want to do when I get home, rather than actually just taking a second, taking that step back. And I'm also someone who I really enjoy nature and the things that like I don't necessarily have in the world around me where I live. So anytime like I'm on a beach or in the mountains, or we just visited Utah not too long ago. And so there was these beautiful canyons. And anyways, those moments that just like take your breath away, just being in that moment. I think that's sometimes what nature forces me to do, because I'm just like, wow, these things actually exist. I had this very similar feeling when I visited London as well, because the buildings were just so old and so cool. Anyways, but it was just like taking that step and just being in that moment and appreciating that moment for what it is and the experience that I get to have, because no one else is going to have the experiences in those moments either. I think we can all agree that taking that time, taking those moments can be really helpful, but why, right? I think of this oftentimes, like if we think of an entire project or entire task, or, even the entirety of our life, it can be overwhelming, like all of the things that go into those things to have a positive outcome. And so I think obviously taking that step back and creating bite-sized chunks that are real, that are realistic, it helps us to maybe not think through things so overwhelmingly, and then celebrating those wins and rewarding ourselves along the way. Because ultimately, we want this calmness, right? But at least for me, even when I'm in those still moments, I often can't appreciate it. Because we live in this world where we're constantly chasing this dopamine high, and because of that, our nervous system is completely unregulated. And so when we finally get to this stillness, it's like, oh, that dopamine maybe goes down, which isn't always a bad thing, but we think of it as a bad thing, right? So highly encourage you that when you feel that spiral, especially in those moments where you feel like it should be calm, challenge those thoughts and that the actions of wanting to do more or be more, and just yearn for those stillness moments and what that looks like. And then, because when we can really appreciate what the calm and stillness can give us, then it helps us to approach life with appreciation and these baby steps and recognition that even the small steps are progress to what we're working towards. And I think then the last piece to kind of tie that all together, and the reminder, is that we don't get those moments back. Never the same, never in the same, again, with the same people or timing or whatever that looks like. But when we take a second to appreciate that stillness, we can not only feel that impact that it has on us, but we can connect the dots to the impact that we have on the world around us. And ultimately, that's our goal, right? We want to know that what we're doing actually matters. So our call to action for the week, I have a handful here. First, I think naming the things that, make you go wow in life, give you that awe factor, and appreciate the beauty that it brings to you, that makes you feel that way in those moments. Name what those things are for you so you can start to connect those dots. I think it's also really helpful to identify some kind of grounding technique, whether that's deep breathing. Again, I'm somebody, I like to, how are my muscles feeling in this moment? Because it allows me to maybe take a step back from all of the thoughts that are swirling and just appreciate the moment for what it is and what it brings to the plate. And I think the last piece, especially where we are now, is taking a second and identifying what are the things that bring you stress. And once you've identified those, I think rather than looking at whatever that thing is as a large monumental task that you have to complete, pick one small thing that you can do to complete in that moment, and then celebrate that you did that thing, right? You don't have to have it all figured out. But I think when we break those stressful moments or things down into more bite-sized pieces, it makes them much more manageable. So with that, that's going to wrap up our episode. A cool announcement. We are officially on Patreon. I am currently doing it as free, so you'll want to subscribe while everything is still free. But each week I do these call to action items, and as I was kind of thinking through things, I was like, it'd be really helpful to actually have in writing how to do these reflection pieces. So each week we will release a toolkit based on the week's episode that you can download. You can put on your iPad, Kindles, whatever, to actually write through, or if you have Adobe. There will also be picture versions on there. So really, the whole point of this podcast is to not only hear the feel-good moments, but put them into practice, and knowing that when we do these things, we feel better, we have more positive impact on the world when we feel good. And there's always room for improvement in our lives, and really kind of focusing on how can we have that growth positive mindset, and knowing that you don't have to do it alone. So we're going to give you a toolkit each week. So check us out on Patreon. It's also on our website, doseoffeelgood.my.canva.site. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing how y'all like those. Again, if you ever have any topics that you would like covered, feel free to send a message my way or connect on Instagram. Otherwise, have a great week. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you are feeling ready to conquer the week and let your impact ripple out to the world around you. Let's connect on Instagram and Threads at Dose of Feel Good Podcast. If you're loving the podcast, I'd love it if you'd hit that subscribe button and leave a review. Until next time, share your own dose of feel good and never underestimate the power of positivity.